All right. Welcome back to the Paranormal Bound podcast, baby. We are back up and running. It has been one heck of a week last week. We had all that snow and ice. Well, for us, we we basically just had ice. It was just unrelenting. The power went out once or twice. Lost internet. Wasn't able to edit. Wasn't able to stream. It was just really rough ordeal, and shout out to all the families out there that, dealt with it a lot harder than we did. We were very lucky. So it is so good to see you guys again. So please come on in, share this live with your friends. We're going to be talking about the missing 411 tonight, and probably going to end up getting the show from 2 weeks ago done. From a rough week before the ice storm, and then the ice storm itself, and then getting back into work this week. It was just really tough to get anything up, but we did get the new channel's video up over at Death Before Decaf. Go check that out. We talk about the Denver airport and all the weirdness, the weirdness around the Denver airport. You guys should love that. But yes, so come on in. Grab yourself a chair, grab yourself a drink, and we're going to get started with this. I'm just going to jump right into it. Oh, before we start, for those of you who don't know what the missing 411 is, it's just a big array of different missing persons cases that some of them just don't make any sense at all. And a guy named David Politis wrote a series of books that really cover all of these. And yeah, we're just going to go over a lot of those tonight. So sit back and relax, and here we go. This one is named The Boy Who Walked Uphill. This was in a national forest in North Carolina. Evan was 6. He was walking 10 feet in front of his father on a narrow ridge trail just outside of some small town up there. The trail sloped gently down towards a creek, but Evan stopped, turned around, and said one strange thing. He says, "I hear water up there." There's no water uphill. His father bent down to tighten a loose bootlace. Took less than 15 seconds. When he looked up, Evan was gone. Searchers found a single sneaker 3 days later, sitting upright on a rock ledge near 700 feet higher than the trail. No scuffing, no slide marks, no torn fabric. Bloodhounds tracked Evan's scent for about 40 yards and then straight up a steep, brush-choked slope. No adult could climb without tools. This is one of those ridges that you're not getting up unless you've got all the proper tools, rope, carabiners, everything to get up something like this. So the trail team leader wrote this in his report. The child's path indicates purpose, not panic, which is an odd thing to say. It rained heavily that night. No further trace was ever recovered. Guys, those of you who have kids in the chat, you know this feeling, this terrified feeling that you get. This dad all he did was a few seconds, he looked down and he wanted to tighten up one of the laces on his boots, and his son was gone, and the only thing found was a sneaker. That would mentally scar you for life. But sit in, guys. These stories are going to get more and more strange. The tent that answered back. This was in Guilford National Forest in Washington. 2 graduate students were doing soil sampling near an abandoned logging spur. At 1:18 a.m., one of them heard his own name spoken from outside the tent. FYI, if you're out solo camping, or even with your buddy, your significant other, if it's in the middle of the night and someone just whispers your name, like, "Tall man," don't move. Don't freak out. Don't answer back. It used his girlfriend's voice. He unzipped the flap and stepped out. Big no-no. The second student, still inside, heard quiet movement for about 10 seconds, then nothing. At sunrise, the tent was still zipped from the outside. The missing student's boots were inside. His headlamp was on the floor, still turned on. There were no footprints, not even soft ash-colored dirt around the campsite. When the search dogs were brought in, it repeatedly pulled its handler toward a section of old-growth timber and refused to cross into it. The handler logged the behavior as abnormal. So let's break this one down. So these two students are doing soil samples up in the hills, and one of them hears his girlfriend's voice say his name. He gets out of the tent, and it's just gone. There's no footprints. There's no trace. He is never seen again. And I get it, guys. You know, you go missing out in the woods, you're fair game to the wildlife, and a human body is not going to survive long, especially with buzzards, coyotes, wild boar, things that are going to just dismember you. But usually, I would think that they would leave some type of evidence of your body being there. Shout out to RC Cola. Not a sponsor of the show, but needs to be. Okay. The Silent Hiker and the Switchbacks. San Juan National Forest, Colorado. Hit me up in the chats if you're from Colorado. A solo hiker named Mark passed two couples on the Switchback Trail climbing toward a ridgeline overlook. All four witnesses later described the same thing. He was smiling, not politely, not casually. He was smiling like he had already recognized them. 20 minutes later, the couples reached the overlook. Mark was standing on the edge of the cliff, facing the trees, not the view. One woman waved. Mark lifted his hand halfway. Then he stepped forward. There was no shout, no flailing. When rescue crews rappelled to the drop below and overlook, they found no body. But they did find a fresh boot print on a narrow dirt shelf far below. It faced away from the cliff toward the forest. That story just kind of ended there. Like, the guy just steps off the cliff. You would expect a body at the bottom and wonder, how did he get so far away from himself that he just decided to step off? But then there's no body and there's one boot print. It's almost kind of like a portal kind of situation there. One that maybe he didn't even know that he was a part of. But this one is titled, The Radio Would Not Let Her Leave. Ocala National Forest in Florida, shout out to Florida, a wildlife technician named Lacora was performing overnight audio recordings of frog populations near the shallow wetlands basin. At 11:42 p.m., her handheld radio crackled. Her own voice came through. It said, "Don't walk back yet. Something is crossing the water." The recording unit shows that she stood up from her folding chair immediately. Her flashlight beam swept left and right. She did not call for backup. Her GPS tracker recorded rapid movement straight into dense and cypress growth where there was no foot access trail. The radio was later found hanging from a branch. The battery was removed. Her boots were placed side by side underneath it. Now, this is something that we see a lot in missing 411 cases. Boots that are boots and shoes of the people who are missing just sitting nicely, almost like you walked into the house and set them next to the front door. And this is one of those situations in the missing 411 that it's consistent, but it doesn't make sense. And if you guys really, really dive in to these stories like I have, you would honestly see so many similarities in them that you started to put together a little piece of this whole giant puzzle. So, this one is called The Hunter Who Returned. I'm not even going to pronounce this name, but this is a national forest in West Virginia. 3 men hunted together every fall. Same campsite, same ridge. On the third morning, one of them failed to return by dusk. At 3:11 a.m., someone walked into camp. It was him. He stood beside the fire and asked, "Did you hear the whistling?" The 2 men said something felt wrong immediately. Not his voice, not his face, his height. It was several inches shorter. His jacket sleeves hung past his hands. He walked away into the trees before either man could stop him. Search crews later located his original body 2 miles downslope in a narrow ravine. Several skeletal compressions was noticed in the torso. The coroner refused to speculate on cause. So, look, the woods is a completely different world, okay? Even if you have a set of woods behind your house, maybe you walk through woods to get to work or get to school or something like that, the woods is a whole different world than the city, okay? Stuff happens way out in the middle of nowhere that you can't explain. And luckily for most of us, we never have to deal with something that's so incredibly crazy that we can't explain it. Now, some of you have. Maybe you're watching this video right now and you're like, you know what? I've definitely dealt with that. But at some point, you know, like, I mean, look at it this way. If this guy who was similar to their friend just walked back into camp and stared at the fire and said, "Did you hear the whistling?" I mean, you got to take some of these stories with a grain of salt, okay? Now, if me and 2 of my friends were hunting and these are 2 of my closest friends, I'm going to notice if it's not them. And if it does look like them, I'm going to say, "Are you okay? Are you injured? Can we let's get you to the hospital, man." And then he just turns around and walks away and never seen again. That one's kind of strange to me. Okay, some of these could be added in as maybe they're real or, you know, who knows. But yeah, guys. This one's called the Fire Tower Call. This is a national forest in Oregon. A maintenance worker stationed alone in a closed fire lookout tower made a short emergency call. All he said was, "There's someone climbing the ladder from the inside." The tower has no interior ladder access. Rangers reached the tower in under an hour. The door was locked from the inside. The man was gone. The radio was still transmitting an open channel. Background noises on the recordings include slow metal impacts spaced approximately 1 second apart. The ladder outside the tower showed no movement marks, dirt, or displaced moss. Now that one, it's weird because let's say this one is 100% true. It says there's someone climbing the ladder from the inside. It's almost like he said something that made no sensical sense at all, and he was just... Yeah, you got to imagine, too, if you wanted to lose your mind completely, the woods is a good place to do it. Like, this is a good place to just go off the beaten path, as it were. And that is, we're actually, tomorrow night, the Paranormal Bound is doing the episode on the suicide forest in Japan. And, you know, a lot of people would say, "Oh, I wouldn't do an episode on that." But, you know, not only do we want to tell the stories that we've found on this forest, we want anyone who's feeling that way, like, we're going to, you know, have a number you can call and everything like that. You know, this is something I've dealt with personally, and I'm sure a bunch of you have too. There's always someone to reach out to out there. It might not be the someone you're looking for, but there's always someone there. So go check out Paranormal Bound Podcast, and sometime, hopefully in the next few days, that video will be up, as long as we don't get any more crazy weather. So, the man who would not stop counting. George Washington National Forest in Virginia. A trail runner passed a man standing motionless beside a wooden footbridge. The man was whispering numbers. The runner slowed, assuming he was injured. The man raised his head and said, 67, 68, 69. The runner asked if he needed help. The man replied, "I can't skip." The runner jogged on. Less than a mile later, the runner encountered a ranger and mentioned the strange encounter. They returned to the footbridge. Only a folded trail map remained. On the back of it, written repeatedly, 69, 69, 69. One missing person reported that day, but the following week, the man fitting the description was reported missing from a nearby campground. Guys, I cannot tell you enough, if you're going to go out into the wilderness to do anything, to camp, to hike, anything, you have to be careful, and you have to understand that you basically are in a whole other world, okay? And I know I've said that before, but there's stories that I've heard where it sounded like different dimensions open up like portals out in the woods. I mean, how else do you explain the staircases that show up in the middle of the national forest way like 20 or 30 miles out? There's no other way to explain it, you know? These stories, and you understand, again, some of them are true, some of them are just bullcrap. But they really make you think, too, and that's one thing I love about the missing 411 cases. And, of course, your human brain is going to sit there and say, I've got to figure this out. I've got to figure out why this doesn't make sense. I've got to figure out what happened to this person. And you will drive yourself so crazy and up a wall that you think you're going to... I mean, some of these stories have turned to cold cases. You know? They were never found again. And I just really... I don't know, guys. You can tell me what you guys think in the comments. You can say, Nathan, you're just a loon. You know, you're crazy. And I'm sorry I'm by myself right now, guys. We don't get together. We'll go live again tomorrow night and give you, the behind the scenes footage before we do the shows and everything like that. But the team is doing good. I just talked to them a few minutes ago. They're probably watching right now, actually. I can't see anything. I'm in the software right now. I can't actually see who's watching or anything like that. Let's see if I can pull something up. Let's see. Excuse me. Give me 1 second, guys. Let's see if I can actually pull this up. I don't know if I can actually pull up my own live as I'm doing it. I don't think I can. Probably not. Oh well. That's alright, guys. That's really the only stories I had, guys. I've got to get to work on editing and get another video up for y'all, and we'll get you guys some shorts going. We're not going to be recording in the studio. You know, we still haven't fully, we've got videos in it, but what you guys don't know is we're freezing our butts off because we haven't got all the insulation up and everything, but it's supposed to be, I think, like 12 degrees tomorrow night, and there's no way we're heating that up, so we're going to do the videos elsewhere tomorrow night. But yeah, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, share. You know, if everybody who watched us every time we put a video up would share the video, man, we would climb so high on the subscriber list. We really do want to make this a career one day. And the only way we do that is with y'all's help, you know. And we have not forgot about merch. We are going to get that going here shortly. And please go over to Death Before Decaf and give that page a subscribe. We still do that. We're going to do a show on that tomorrow night as well. Haven't fully figured out the content we're going to do yet, but, you know, go over there, leave us comments in the previous video and tell us what kind of conspiracy you want to hear next, and we'll get on it. So, guys, I love you. Ronnie and Rachel love you too. and we will see you guys tomorrow night for the behind-the-scenes footage we're going to do. We'll see y'all then.